Hey, what's up, YouTube? Brett and Bordy here. Today, we're going to break down the cleric abilities for you in Ashes of Creation. We did the mage abilities about a week or two ago, and we wanted to double back on the cleric abilities because we thought there's some pretty interesting things here, especially now that we have two classes abilities available to us. Bordy, are you ready to break this down?
I'm ready, man. Let's jump into it.
All right. So the first one we have here is Castigation. It's like a spirit whip of sorts. There. So Bordy, this is I guess not a standard cleric ability, I would say, in most games, or a holy priest, or whatever you want to call it. So what are your thoughts on Castigation as what appears to be one of the cleric's main ways to deal damage?
I like it, man. I think it's a pretty unique ability for a cleric class. The animation looks pretty cool. It lashes your target with holy energy, dealing direct damage, provides health regen and mana restoration for you and your surrounding allies. I think that's pretty cool. So not only does it damage, it also has a healing effect as well. So I like it, man. I think this ability is fairly unique. And it's a good ability, I think. I like it.
Now, one of the things we want to kind of look at in this video, too, is ways that it can be adapted to the other classes. You got this whip here, Bordy. We know that the mage, the mage has the elemental abilities and a lot of those ways to change and mitigate this. One thing that reminds me of this, Bordy, is the Dragon Knight ability in Elder Scrolls Online. That is a fire whip or the fire lash. So that it could be a cool combination with the mage to have this put a dot on this or something.
Yeah, I thought that as well whenever I first seen it too, which is pretty cool. Or what about the mage? Like somehow it well, I don't think that would happen if it integrated with the blink somehow and you blink through and then lash someone or something. I don't know, something crazy like that. I don't think it's gonna work that way though. I don't think those two abilities are gonna like mesh together like that.
Yeah, and we'll see. It'll be interesting too, because a lot of these are healing spells or have some sort of healing tied to them. They have mentioned that cleric is one of the or the main healing class in the game. So as you're adapting your skills, maybe as a tank, you want to use cleric as your back, your secondary class, possibly to get some survivability, or or whatever. Maybe you're more of a solo player in PvP. You probably want to pick cleric as your second. Your second class at that point to have some sort of self-sufficiency. So it'll be interesting, man. Interesting to see what goes on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the next one we have is Benediction. Now, Benediction is a chain heal that heals up to 3 targets. So basically, this is our first glimpse at like a true healing spell, no damage, no anything like that. Pretty standard other than the chain effect, Bordy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to add to this. It's a simple, straightforward ability. A chain heal that heals up to 3 targets. I'm curious, though, how the targeting is going to work on this. Is it just going to hit the closest to 3? So you target your main person, and then I would assume it's just chain to the next closest 2 people. Is that how that's going to work? That's how it would work in my mind. Yeah,
or maybe it might be a smart heal sort of thing that kind of bounces to the 3 people in your group that needs healing the most. I don't know. It'll be hard to imagine though that being the case, because I mean, if it's a chain heal, then that would get pretty wonky pretty quick if you're chaining across the map just because your party member is like the lowest on health. So
yeah, I would think it would have to be the next 2 close. Yeah, I think you'd probably tab over to whoever you want to heal, right? And then use the ability, hits that person, and then the closest 2 would be my guess. So maybe it has like a range too, right? Like it can't hit people outside of a certain range. So if there's only one person there, maybe it won't chain to anybody else. Like if there's only one person within X meters away, but you still have more party members, obviously, but one person's like 10 meters away and then the other people are 100 meters away. It's not going to chain all the way over there.
Right, exactly. And there's probably going to be some limitations to healing caps and everything like that. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with aggro, especially with healing. I'm always interested about that in MMOs, just as far as like pulling off of the tank, but by overhealing, some MMOs do that. So we'll see, because I think it'll be interesting with the adaptations. Again, if you're maining a cleric, what other than maybe the tank what starts to benefit you, man. Like Ranger as an off thing, if you're a healer, maybe gives you some access to maybe some nature related healing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because this is the one class that's kind of, when you start to look at the adaptations and start to imagine what they would do, it's hard to imagine some of the clerics abilities being adapted in a way that would be beneficial to healing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to see that, and it's hard to see down that path. You know, I think with the mage, it's kind of the mage and some other classes, it's a little easier to kind of look and speculate on what we think would be cool in there. But I think the cleric might be a little bit tougher to decide, like what's going to happen with these abilities and how are they going to work. I think maybe you just get, maybe if you go like Ranger Mage or Ranger Cleric, excuse me, like if you go Ranger Cleric, maybe your arrows just do some kind of heal or something. You know, maybe you just get an additional heal on top of your abilities. I don't know. I'm ready to see those. That's what I want to see, man, after these 8 primary abilities.
Yeah, and that's a lot. I mean, it truly is a lot of variation there, so it'll be interesting to see how they pull that off, honestly. All right, so the next one we have here is Hallowed Ground. Now, Hallowed Ground fills the surrounding area with radiant energy, damaging enemies and healing allies. So again, not a pure heal, but another ability with healing in it.
Yeah, this is another like AoE heal. I guess the first one isn't necessarily, is that considered, I don't think it's considered an AoE heal, is it, if it chains 2 other enemies, right? Is that AoE, would that be considered AoE?
No.
I guess not, because it's not area of effect. It's more like, I guess it's a chain ability is what it would be called, I guess, right?
Yes, I don't know if it falls into either category. It'd be a targeted spell, but technically after it hits its target, then you have 2 other, kind of.
Yeah, so this looks more like this is an AoE like damage and heal. So I'm assuming like if you have allies in an area, I like this because it's pretty interesting if you're in like a PvP match, especially, and you're fighting against other people and you can do damage and heal your people fighting. It seems like this is going to be a pretty powerful ability, I think.
Yes, I think so too, Bordy. And you know, again, that would be an ability for sure that as a mage or something like that, getting the maybe extra AoE effect or adding an AoE effect to your ability could be very powerful. So maybe Cleric is more of a supplemental class. We'll find out later that maybe you just adds, you know, again, different ways to deal damage to your damage dealer or something like that. So.
Yeah, I have to point it out though, man. This has the hovering effect like a lot of the other mage, or like a lot of the mage abilities did. So that was something that was like really hot around the Ashes community, is all of these like levitating and jumping abilities for the animations, and this is one for the cleric that has that. So it's going to be interesting to see in the future if they change that or tone that down. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with the kind of levitation abilities, because it's kind of split. Some people like it, but there's a lot of people who like it, they don't like that. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and I know that we may be jumping the gun a little bit on this, but are all abilities like cast timed? Are all of them like, you know, you have to stop and stand still to cast, you know, your magic? And that, if so, you know, will that steer people away from magic users? So, I mean, I think we've seen some mage gameplay and them strafing and casting. So hopefully we don't have to worry about that. But I mean, like you mentioned, the jumpy thing is a concern if that is the case, for sure.
It definitely begs that question.
All right, dude. So the next ability we have here is Divine Censure. Now, Divine Censure is a radiant spirit, the target dealing damage. Anytime the target is attacked, the attacker has a chance to get healed. So this is a pretty interesting spell, Bordy. Kind of, you know, obviously this is another ESO reference for me. You know, the Templar has this ability, a spirit throw. It gives a knockdown. You know, it's interesting though. This kind of marks the target. So this obviously, as a healer, like in a raid or a dungeon type setting, you're going to be using this a lot to pop on the boss, so you can give a little bit of supplementary healing to your group members.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this doesn't say a time or, if it lasts 30 seconds or whatever, but anytime the target is attacked, the attacker has a chance to get healed. That's pretty strong, man. I like it. It's a pretty neat ability. The animation looks cool. I don't know if it has I'm assuming this in the video, this guy gets knocked back a ways. It doesn't say anything about it having any kind of knockback or CC. So I'm assuming this guy is just dead, right? It's just killing him and it's not some sort of knockback attached to the spear too.
I don't think that there is. We can watch it one more time if you want to. Here we go. Summons the spear, chucks it, and the guy gets...
I think he just dies.
I think he's dead, yeah. Because the next spell is something involved with resurrection. So, yeah, maybe. All right, so let's break down this next spell since we're already kind of there. All right, so the next spell is Resurrection. Resurrect a dead ally here. So, clearly... cleric is your go-to resurrector, or maybe there might be some other classes that have some talent like that, but we kind of knew that would be the case with the healer.
Yeah, this is fine. It's a very standard spell we see in a lot of MMOs. The only thing I'll point out that I don't like is the big like explosion of fireworks there at the end of the animation. I think that's a little bit silly, if I'm being quite honest. I don't like the fairy dust that gets thrown when the guy gets up. The animation, everything is cool, and then there's like this big explosion of like fairy dust at the end. I kind of hope they end up removing that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, though,
dude. What'll be interesting though is how does this adapt? Are we going to be able to, like, will you be resurrected with more health? Will you be resurrected, like, if you're a cleric, will you get more health, like full health when you get resurrected? Or if you're a cleric mage, you get some sort of like magic buff, like patient gets resurrected with maybe a barrier or a bubble of some sort. It'll be interesting to see. Resurrection is one of those spells that, dude, I got this question for you now that we're speaking about resurrections. Does this mean that like there is no like get up mechanic? So I can't, if I'm a warrior or ranger, and you're a mage, can I not get you up? Which is, again, I think interesting. Can you get
you mean like getting knocked down and then having the opportunity
can you
to
get yourself up, or it'd be interesting to see how they do that. Compared to other MMOs, I guess. ESO. I hate to keep referencing that game, the same game, but they have soul shards. You can just resurrect yourself in that location. I wonder if this is like a battle res versus an actual like res spell.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So, there's a lot of different like res mechanics in other MMOs. So all we know is that you're going to have a resurrection spell. We know nothing else at this point. So that is a very interesting point, man. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do that. We'll see, I guess.
Yes. All right. So our next ability is Damnation. Now, Damnation curses your target, dealing holy damage over time, lowering their damage output. So here's a little bit of a debuff, Bordy. A debuff that seems to obviously deal some damage. It seems to last over a certain period of time. We have no idea how long. Maybe that's something that changes with adaptation or something like that. But, again, these aren't surprising, the nature of these spells. These are like typical support spells that you're debuffing your enemy, you're healing your allies. This is just another one that falls into that category.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think there's anything too incredibly unique about it. It's the first ability we've seen that doesn't heal, right? There's no healing attached to this ability. No. It's just damage over time and lower. So this is just strictly kind of a support type of thing. Which I mean is pretty standard, I think, in most MMOs.
Yeah, other than Resurrect, of course. Resurrect doesn't seem to heal initially, but obviously you would think with some adaptations it probably does. All right, so the next ability we have here, Bordy, is Devotion. Now, Devotion is a swift act that heals your target. So flash heal, quick heal, standard healing. Yep. Looks like this reminds me of the old Ultima Online days. I got to reference that, bringing that back out of the hat. So it's in Ultima Online there was a spell called just heal, and it was a really fast, very quick heal. And there was a spell called Greater Heal, which was your big heal that took a little bit longer to cast. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of just kind of the regular heal. Probably it's a very quick, very fast ability that just heals just probably, and not a huge amount, but probably a small amount. Reasonable amount of mana. Yeah, I would guess flash heals probably double the cost or something like that because you get 3 targets. So yeah, this is gonna be your standard. I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, that's gonna be your standard heal for your cleric. All right, so then speaking of heal, the next ability we have is exorcism. Exorcism is a holy power that rips at your target's spirit, channeling damage over time. A holy energy blasts damage nearby enemies at the end of the channel. This is a pretty interesting one for me, Bordy, because, you know, this is something that kind of falls into like maybe the dark side of being, you know, aligned with the light or something like that, you know, because it does rip their soul from them or whatever you want to call it. So, Bordy, this is a straight up damage spell, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I like it, man. It seems like you could maybe go just full out damage dealer with a cleric with some of these abilities that are in here if that's the way you wanted to go, which is also interesting whenever you start talking about your secondary archetype and how those are going to morph. You know, maybe you could be some sort of DPS cleric main archetype, which would be interesting. But the exorcism also is another holy spell too, which is very interesting because the mage has a vast array of all of these abilities. The cleric is all holy power, so it seems. It's all these really bright orange and yellow, or not orange, I guess goldish yellowish animations, and the mage was all over the place. It was very, very much more diverse than the cleric in terms of abilities. So I found that pretty interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, mages are typically masters of different like types of magic. So maybe
this is true.
Maybe mages is the only one that's actually diverse, and the rest of them are pretty focused, like the cleric is. But we'll see, man. It's going to be great. I hope as they ease into the alpha testing, that they'll continue to show these off, because I think they're pretty interesting to break down and look at. All right, so the next ability we have here, Bordy, is Judgment. Now, Judgment is a holy power, crushes your target, dealing direct damage and lowering their mitigation. Now, obviously, Bordy chucks a little bit of a hammer there, and again, a debuff of some sort to the target.
Yeah, I think it's, again, pretty standard stuff for most MMOs, I think. Just lowering your mitigation and doing a little bit of damage. So, again, maybe you could, you know, go some kind of damage-dealing cleric. That seems to be the case. It seems to be one of the options that we're going to have in the game.
Yeah, I you know, it'll be cool because, obviously, I think a lot of people gravitate towards Paladin as a class in MMO. So, obviously, we'll get to see people be able to build that out with the tank, you know, cleric combination one way or another. Obviously, you have the fighter too, so fighter cleric probably brings up some sort of Templar or you know, holy damage dealing, you know, melee character. So we'll see, man. It'll be interesting what goes on, obviously, as we get revealed more of these class abilities and how they kind of synergize with one another. But dude, again, I can't wait till they show the next class, and I hope it's Ranger. Honestly, dude, I'm ready to see. So
yeah, I don't have a preference, man. To be honest, I'm just enjoying seeing all of these. I am really ready to see some archetypes. I think we're probably a little ways away from seeing secondary archetypes, but so far these have been interesting, man. I really enjoy watching these videos and breaking them down.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, the notification bell for more Ashes of Creation content like this. Obviously, the next class that we get, we'll be breaking that down here on the channel for you. So stay tuned. All right, guys, and we will see you next time.